We're in the middle of the week, right smack dab in the middle on a Wednesday. And welcome inside our halftime studios. Phil Elson, along with Matt Smackdown Jenkins, Matty T. We've got an action-packed show today, and we're going to go right to the phones because our first guest is joining us right now. It is Arkansas head basketball coach Eric Musselman, dialing in from Fayetteville. Coach, really appreciate your time right here in the middle of the week. I know you're staying as busy as possible during the pandemic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Phil. Thanks so much for having me on. It's great to join you and Matt. Matt.
Yeah, we well, I got to tell you, we were talking about you yesterday after you were on Seth Greenberg's podcast. It was a really enjoyable podcast, and I want to get to a couple of things out of that. But I also wanted to ask. I mean, I didn't realize that Scott Brooks had played for your father. This must be something that you run into throughout your entire, not just coaching career, but life. Everybody's got stories about your dad, and they put you on the spot asking you to tell, just your favorite story about your father. This kind of stuff has to happen all the time. You got to have stories ready to go at a moment's notice.
No, it's true, Phil. I mean, the interesting thing about Scotty Brooks is, so Scotty was playing at the old L.A. Summer League, which used to be at Loyola Marymount. My dad was coaching the Albany Patroons, which was a minor league CBA team. And my dad did not know college players at the time because he had spent most of his life in the NBA. And so he got this Albany job in the CBA, and they had a 5-round draft. And so I was going to the L.A. Summer League. I had just graduated from the University of San Diego. It was 1987, summer of 87. And I called my dad and said, Dad, there's this 5'10" point guard who just scored 25 points against the Russian national team at Loyola Marymount. You got to draft him with one of your late draft picks. And my dad looked him up, and Scotty had a really good career at UC Irvine. And my dad said, well, I'm already going to draft you in the 5th round just because you're my son. And that means I got to draft Brooks, and you better be sure that this guy can play. And I had just graduated from college, and I said, Dad, I'm telling you, he tore up the Russian national team. This guy could be an NBA player. And my dad, sight unseen, actually drafted Scotty Brooks, and he played on that Albany team. And then my dad got the Timberwolves job a few years later, and he brought Scotty Brooks to the Timberwolves. And then Scotty ended up playing with Charles Barkley in the Sixers. And had a great career in the NBA, along with playing for the Houston Rockets when they made great playoff runs. And then I actually hired Scotty Brooks as an assistant coach once I was a head coach with the Sacramento Kings. So really interesting how all that stuff comes into play.
It was a fascinating conversation, and I felt like you guys could have gone another hour just on sharing some of those stories. But, one of the things that really hit me during your talk was how, and I know that you as a basketball coach throughout your career and all the different levels that you've coached, you've learned how to adjust and not be rigid. And the way that you were talking about how college basketball needs to be able to make adjustments in order to, I guess, look still like to top-level basketball talent in high school as the road to get to the NBA or any professional level of basketball. And right now, college basketball is trying to figure out how to do that. And you're using the word adjust. College basketball has to adjust. It's not going to go away, but if they don't adjust, it's just not going to be what it used to be.
Well, the one thing I loved about the NBA is when David Stern was the commissioner, they constantly wanted to tinker and find better ways. So, there used to be no zone in the NBA. There was illegal defense if you weren't within arm's length of an offensive player. Then they changed that and allowed you to play zone. Then they changed the, bringing the ball up the floor from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. One year, I actually got called into the NBA league office to discuss the goaltending rule because what they did is they wanted to adapt to FIBA, and so the G League, we played where the ball was able to be tapped off the rim. And I thought that was something that was awesome for the game. They didn't adapt that rule, but they tinkered with it and had the G League try it. And so there used to be NBA hand checking on defense where you could hold basically your hand on the ball handler's back. They took that out for freedom of movement. And so they continue to adapt all these rules, and college basketball, they keep doing the same thing. And so all of a sudden now, the NBA and the G League have become, in not my eyes, but some people's eyes, somewhat of competition with college, because we're now seeing this new G League select team where players are going directly from high school to the G League. And obviously the money is astronomical with some of the salaries that they're giving people that have already signed contracts for the select team. So my thought process is we need to sell our game to all the great high school players. And we have to be adaptable. Like, we need more rules like the NBA because that's where these players want to eventually get to. And so when I go watch Coach Neighbors' team play, they have 4 quarters. The NBA has 4 quarters. Why does men's basketball not have 4 quarters? I wish that all of us could get as close to possible from men's basketball, women's basketball, both on the WNBA side, the NBA side, and collegiately, and then have the high schools follow suit. But even the high schools, they're reluctant to change. No shot clock. That was just voted nationally the other day, that you go to California and kids got a shot clock. You go to another state, no shot clock. And I just think the more uniformed we can be, the easier it is to attract fans and not confuse them. We should all have the same rules, in my opinion.
You touched on something that I've always wondered. I do the women's basketball broadcast for Coach Neighbors' team. In women's basketball, they advance the ball to half court. You don't do that in the men's game. I don't get the disconnect. And I know we're talking about, trying to make college basketball a little more like the NBA rules, but I don't get the disconnect between the rules in men's and women's college basketball, because there is a disconnect.
Matt, it's crazy. I mean, the problem is the rules people are not talking to people that have played both rules. You can't go talk to a college coach that's been coaching at a college institution for 25 years and ask them about advancing the ball. I can already tell you what they're going to say. You need to go talk to the coaches that have coached under both umbrellas. Like, go ask Coach Neighbors what he likes better. Go ask the women's coach at another institution what they like. Go talk to coaches that have coached in both college and the NBA, because the advancement of the ball in late game only makes the games better. It gives the offense a better chance to score. The defense has to now guard closer to the rim, and there's more strategy than inbounding the ball with 4 seconds to go the length of the floor, and then it just really turns into luck, as opposed to being able to get your team in a huddle, diagram something with 2 or 3 different options. And with 4 seconds to go on a side out, you can have 2 or 3 different options. So, to me, it's nonsense that we don't have uniform rules.
Speaking to Coach Eric Musselman here on Halftime Coach, I just want to talk a little bit, too, about the new series that you guys announced last week, the Arkansas versus Oklahoma. I think we were all, at least all of us here in the media, we were curious of, what matchup you guys were cooking up. And once that announcement was made, it just seemed too obvious to not have this matchup, especially being the neutral side. It'll attract a lot of fans, but I also think this is going to be a very good non-conference test for both sides once you get into March, when March Madness rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, we really feel like it's a really, really, good thing for both. Like, the whole key is, and Anthony Root on our staff does an insanely incredible job of spending so much time trying to get us the very, very, very best schedule that we possibly can have non-conference. Because what you want to do is you really want to give yourself an opportunity that if you win enough games going into conference play, that you've set yourself up where you could possibly be a tournament team. And that's what we did this past year, going 12-1 non-conference. And we have a tougher schedule this upcoming year. But, yes, it made total sense Coach Kruger wanted to play the game, and he thought that Tulsa was a natural spot. I actually loved the thought process of playing it in Tulsa one year and Little Rock the other year. That kind of got shot down, and so we've come up with a 4-year deal, in Tulsa, which is, it's still in their state, but it's close enough for our fans to drive to Tulsa, and it should be a great series for both of us. And you know what? When you play a really well-coached team, you learn about your team, and sometimes when you play those type of games, win or lose, it can only help you. When you challenge your team with non-conference games like we did last year at Georgia Tech, at Indiana, this neutral site game, it really, really can only help you. And so that was the thought process behind it.
And I think one key aspect, too, and you've mentioned this and a lot of other people have wrote about this, was the one big thing that Braley brought this thing together as well was the relationship between you and Oklahoma head coach Lon Kruger. And you two have quite the history together, between Kruger being the head coach and then you being his assistant coach while he was at the Atlanta Hawks. He helped land you your first head coaching job in the NBA. What has Lon Kruger meant to the career of Eric Musselman?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was only with Coach for a short time with the Hawks, and he, I think everybody you work with, you take so much from. And with Coach Kruger, I was home for my son's school bus when it came at 3:00 every day. He basically knew that I had a young family and said, "Hey, go meet him at his bus stop," and that is a lesson that really stuck with me. He's a great people person. He's an excellent X&O coach. Obviously, you just look at his record, but he's really personable. Unlike me, he doesn't get too high or too low. He's even keel. I wish I could have more of a temperament like he does. But he's a guy that has meant a ton to me for sure. One, he hired me without really knowing me, and that's a big thing when someone trusts you. And so I feel really lucky and fortunate to have spent my time with him with the Hawks.
Coach, I think I could speak for most Arkansans that we'd rather you not change your energy level at all. That's one of the things we really enjoy. So don't change that, pretty please. And one thing
I won't change it. I think sometimes my players wish I'd chill a little bit. I can tell you that.
Well, the fans don't. That I can tell you for sure. I don't want to ask about Isaiah Joe and the draft or anything like that. What I want to ask you about Isaiah is, whether he goes in the draft or whether he comes back to Arkansas, we know that he is a professional prospect. We know about his three-point shooting. He's better defensively than some people expect. What can Isaiah Joe improve on first and foremost to continue to develop as an NBA prospect?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost is, we want to just continue to support him throughout this draft process, let him and his family gather as much information as possible. I was actually on the phone today with an NBA team for over an hour and 20 minutes talking about Isaiah Mason and a player that I had at Nevada who's also put his name in the draft, and Jalen Harris. So, and then we went through a bunch of the SEC players. But I think this is a great information tool for parents and players to try to get feedback, not only what our coaching staff at Arkansas feels about Isaiah and his game, but most importantly, hey, get the feedback from the NBA. Ask them what they're seeing on film. Ask them areas of concern that you can improve on. But certainly getting stronger, adding body weight, is a big part of what he will need to do, and then continuing to improve as a ball handler. He's a great passer. He's got great vision. Playing with the ball in his hands a little bit more. But you're talking about a high character young man who's incredible for your team chemistry. And a lot of it, too, is just as you get older, your body changes as well. My body changes to the negative on a daily basis anytime after 50 years old. So, but I think all those things are really important for Isaiah to get this feedback and then if in fact he does come back to Arkansas, and he comes back really focused, knowing what that next level is looking for him in his junior year.
I want to close on the idea of maybe just the near future. There's so many hypotheticals, and I don't want you to make a guess on when they're coming back or anything like that. But Hunter Yurachek did say that they're looking at if restrictions continue to ease, June 1st as a day that you can open facilities and players will be able to use weight rooms, maybe get into the performance center and get some shots up. Obviously with some restrictions, but I'm sure you're hoping to get some of the guys back sometime in the next couple of weeks. And once that happens, once you actually get together with your guys again, it'll feel a little bit of a sense of return to normalcy.
Yeah, I mean, we've been working so hard. There's a group of our staff that every day, like right before this interview, we've been studying the Milwaukee Bucks offense and their 5-out offense and transition and flow, and how we're going to change and alter some of the stuff that we're doing to match personnel and so forth. But, the last 2 days, it's for me, like, really anxious to be around our players and to get back with guys and to get back to some normalcy and get back to coaching and connecting. And, I, for whatever reason, just the last 48 hours is like, man, I'm ready to get back and have life be a little bit more normal. Obviously, the medical experts are, doing their thing, but, I have a freshman in college at the University of San Diego, and, I want him to be able to experience going to class and sitting in the classroom and, not just do stuff online like he did the second semester. And I can't wait to go watch Coach Pittman's team play. And I hope I'm sitting in that football stadium and watching them play Nevada opening game. And I hope that, we can get to that point and it's safe and good for everybody. But certainly challenging times for everybody and how you're dealing with your current players, recruiting, all that stuff has changed dramatically.
Appreciate you joining us, Coach. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks, Coach.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Always fun talking with you, whether it's basketball or anything else. Keep it up, and hopefully we can do it again sometime in the summer.
Thanks, Phil, Matt. Appreciate you guys having me on. Have a great one.
Absolutely. Eric Musselman, Arkansas head basketball coach. You want to echo the idea, SmackDown? Please don't change the energy level, right? Don't be more like Lon Kruger. Just be Eric Musselman, please.
No, there's too many fans out there that enjoy the energy. And the players, despite what he said, the players eat that energy up because that in turn makes them play well. If you got a coach that'll fight for you like that, makes everybody else better. He's got a rabid fan base that loves it too.